Hi, I'm Kimberly, and it's Tuesday at 9 a.m. It is June 23rd, and oh look there, now I'm live. I'm Kimberlyn with Life's Work Yoga. This is story time. That means it's 9 o'clock on Tuesday, and I'm in my backyard. I'm actually going to share with you an introduction to a story that was my children's favorite. Literally introducing you to Gerald. And today I had intended to talk and hear stories from my dad, and it didn't quite work out to make that happen. And so I wanted to first start with just a little thought reflection about what story time is for me, why it is that I broadcast kind of this hodgepodge of ideas in regard to story time. And really what I want to be communicating, what I want to be revealing is that there is power in sharing and in catching each other's stories. Sharing our stories, we can process our own experience to the point where we can cultivate our own witness perspective. In sharing our stories, we tease out what matters most. We sort out the details to recognize where we might still be stuck as victim or as hero, and start to come into that third person narrative to be able to tell the story from what's most important, what's most valued. And what I mean by catching stories is when we practice listening with our whole bodies, when we practice hearing not only what's being said, but what's not being said. And I had the distinct pleasure of catching someone's story this weekend while hiking, which is always for me a great opportunity that you've got a beautiful surrounding, right? Natural environment, in which case you've got this time between obstacles or through the process of finding your way, no matter how well the hike might be marked or predetermined. So it reminded me in that time is that I've known this individual for quite some time, but this was the first time that I got to hear her story. And hearing her story from her own words is one layer. And the reason I wanted to invite my dad to come to story time, which I still hope to have happen, is because there's another layer of self-study, there's another layer of truth when we can hear our stories told by someone else, by someone who knows us. So in that thought, stay tuned for more explorations of not only guests who will share their stories. I have a number of videos with a few guests from past months, from before COVID-19. So take a look at those, and if you have a desire to be featured, right? You don't have to be a business person. You don't have to have something to sell. What I want to encourage is a safe space for all of us to learn not only how to share our stories, but how to catch each other's stories so that we can cultivate authenticity and create safe spaces for vulnerability. Because in those safe spaces of vulnerability is where we get to see our truth. So that will bring me to Gerald. Gerald can't dance, and so I love this book, and I picked this off the shelf because of the title and the idea that so many of my students, I used to actually teach dance when I was in college. That's how I paid my way through undergrad study. I was flabbergasted as to how many people, my husband included, who in a state of kind of confession and almost apology, confesses that they can't dance. Well, yes, there are professional dancers, right? But as Gerald is going to help teach us, dance is a way of moving the energy that we have in and around our bodies. There's not a right or a wrong way to dance when we dance for joy, when we dance for ourselves. Now, I hope I didn't give away too much of the punchline, but here is Giraffes Can't Dance by Giles Andre and Guy Parker Reese. The drawings are just fantastic, right? I mean, these little monkey characters dancing. Some warthogs. Gerald was a tall giraffe whose neck was long and slim, but his knees were awfully crooked and his legs were rather thin. He was very good at standing still and munching shoots off trees. But when he tried to run around, he buckled at the knees. Now, every year in Africa, they hold the jungle dance, where every single animal turns up to skip and prance. And this year, when the day arrived, poor Gerald felt so sad, because when it came to dancing, he was really very bad. The warthogs started waltzing, and the rhinos rock and rolled. The lions danced a tango that was elegant and bold. The chimps all did a cha-cha with a very Latin feel, and 8 baboons then teamed up for a splendid Scottish reel. Gerald swallowed bravely as he walked toward the floor, but the lions saw him coming, and they soon began to roar. "Hey, look at clumsy Gerald," the animals all sneered. "Giraffes can't dance, you silly fool." "Oh, Gerald, you're so weird." Gerald simply froze up. He was rooted to the spot. "They're right," he thought. "I'm useless. Oh, I feel like such a clot." So he crept off from the dance floor and he started walking home. He'd never felt so sad before. So sad and so alone. Then he found a little clearing and he looked up at the sky. "The moon can be so beautiful," he whispered with a sigh. "Excuse me," coughed a cricket who'd seen Gerald earlier on. "But sometimes when you're different, you just need a different song. Listen to the swaying grass and listen to the trees. To me, the sweetest music is those branches in the breeze. So imagine that lovely moon is playing just for you. Everything makes music, if you really want it to." With that, the cricket smiled and picked up his violin. Then Gerald felt his body do the most amazing thing. His hooves had started shuffling, making circles on the ground. His neck was gently swaying and his tail was swishing round. He threw his arms out sideways and he swung them everywhere. Then he did a backward somersault and leapt up in the air. Gerald felt so wonderful. His mouth was open wide. "I am dancing! Yes, I am dancing! I am dancing!" Gerald cried. Then, one by one, each animal who'd been there at the dance arrived while Gerald boogied on and watched him, quite entranced. They shouted, "It's a miracle! We must be in a dream. Gerald's the best dancer that we've ever seen." "How did you learn to dance like that? Please, Gerald, tell us how." But Gerald simply twisted round and finished with a bow. Then he raised his head and looked up at the moon and stars above. "We all can dance," he said, "when we find music that we love. The reason that I love this story is not just because Gerald comes full circle to his own awareness of his strength in being him and doing it his way, but the animals in the jungle, right? Those animals live in our heads as well as in our communities, telling us, nah, you can't do it. Who do you think you are? When we find the music that we love, to me that means we find a circle of people, of heart-filled, compassionate friends and family who can cheer us on even before we demonstrate our skill, right? They cheer us on when we're practicing, when we're beginning, when we're even just thinking about getting started. What's the phrase that may be playing in your head that says, I can't do this? Maybe you can. Maybe it takes walking away from the old story, from the head story, from the community that is naysayers, and finding a safe place where a cricket can whisper to you. Jiminy Cricket, our conscience, our deep knowing truth, this self, this Atman, the Guru Center. Choose the language that speaks to you. But don't stop dancing. Don't stop practicing. And most importantly, don't stop breathing. Because that is that force, that energy life force that gives us the courage, the patience, the permission to begin again, to breathe, to move. And when we find our groove, that too is a form of rest. Thank you for allowing me to share this story. Again, it's Giraffes Can't Dance by Giles Andrea and Guy Parker Reese. Look forward to seeing you again and hearing your stories. Please know that this is a space for us to authentically peel back the layers, to find, to discover, to remember, and to cherish our stories. Be well. Namaste.